Process Art Discovery audience for joining me today. I'm Lynda Norman. I'm a watercolor artist in the beautiful province of British Columbia. Today we're on part 3 of a 3-part mini birch series. Part 1 and part 2 were really fun to do. I hope you were enjoying the new angles. Lorenz has got the cameras moving around and getting you in a little closer, seeing what's going on the page, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun for all of us. And part 3. I have the, for those of you who maybe haven't seen part 1 and part 2, I came across this frame. Had some old photos that I had taken in it, and I thought I'm going to repurpose that and maybe do some little birches. So that's the project I've been on. When I finish it, I think I'm going to take it to a little art show and sale that I'm involved in April. So that'll be a little fun addition to my display. And so with having an idea in my head that I wanted to do them quick and simple, birch trees are always my go-to for that. They are fun and they're quick. And I thought I would do left, right kind of a thing, and then one in the middle. And so this is what I've done so far. This is the first one. And when I look at them, I can sort of sense that there's, the water down here. I just loved the way the Mayan dark blue faded down into the, and dissipated into the white to create that watery effect. And so if one is top and one is bottom, I thought maybe the middle one would be with that lake, if you want to call it a lake, or maybe it's a snow-covered field, I don't know. But maybe that should be more of a central feature. So I'm going to work on getting my birch trees in with my masking tape. My Solo brand masking tape. I just love it. It's sticky when it needs to be. It tears really nicely for these birches. And these two, I ran the birches right off the top front of the page just to make them stand out more. I'm just debating on whether we should do. I think I'm going to just be brave and put it right up there. I'll make a sort of a bunch of rocks around the bottom of it, or some shrubs or something, and we'll see what happens. If it doesn't work out, I know where there's more paper. All right. So I love working with the tape because I can bend it and angle it a little bit, and I'm not burnishing it down, so it's going to be easy to work with. I'm going to do 2 there, and I'm going to do and you know what? I've done that upside down because it's got a point on it, one end, and I didn't realize that. So I'm just going to peel that back and turn it around, and oops. And whatever that little piece is there, I don't know why that is there. What is that? I'll pull it off and see. Oh, I see. It's okay. Well, I thought it would be a branch, but it's going the wrong way. That's fine. All right. I see my tape is pulling off at a bad angle, and that's what's going on here. I think my tape got a little bit frozen. I've been doing lots of workshops and different things, and it has been minus 13 Celsius here off and on, and sometimes when my materials get left in my vehicle for too long, I think that can have an effect. Not sure, just my guess. Just my guess. And yeah, the tape is kind of funny. Now I've got them sort of both leaning the other way towards the left. I'm going to have to change that a tiny bit, I think. And I will do that by bringing that piece there. And this is the, this is the part that you can have so much fun with. There, we'll bring that up there. And having put that first little guy on there, it just was not meant to be, I don't think. I'm going to take that off, set him aside for now. And these aren't even looking like birch trees to me at the moment. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We will see. So, I've been meaning to mention, a couple of you have asked about my tattoos. And for me, they're a very personal thing. And I don't know, I've always wanted a tattoo. I didn't get my first one until I was in my 50s. And my most recent one, was it this one or the other one? I can't remember. My daughter designed one. I've got one on my calf, and it's a Celtic motherhood knot, and she designed it, and it's got a dragonfly, which is one of my things that I love. And so I got mine on my calf, and she got hers on her arm. My other daughter was pregnant at the time, so she's waiting to get hers, when the time is right. This one in particular has so much meaning to me. It's a phoenix, and on my 65th birthday, my grandson Lyndon was born, and they named him after me. He lived just shy of 2 weeks. He had so many challenges that he wasn't able to overcome, and there wasn't a doctor in the world who could help him. And we spent, his hours here, together as much as we could. And I just felt that it was something that I wanted to do for him, to honor him. And a friend of mine, Gabriel Hunt, designed the phoenix and tattooed that for me. So it has very special meaning to me. Had I, not had that incentive to honor my grandson, I may not have had something quite as big and bold, but you know what? I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's just a part of me, and as he is. So that's the story behind that. And we've all got our own, reasons for doing the things we do, and the things that mean things to us are so important that that I think it's just nice to be able to honor people however we feel is right for us. I have other things that, in my life that are sentimental and meaningful to me as well. And it's lovely that we have that. A friend of mine, sister just passed away, and I was telling Lorenz, she said, she said, I had a brother for 71 years and a sister for 75, and now they're both gone. But she said the stories and the memories are so precious, and they absolutely are. And that's what I love. One of the things I love. All right, I think that's enough trees. These guys are getting kind of, I think, a little. They're not as fat as the other two, but I think they're going to be okay. I'm going to have that watery light area in the middle, and I think they're going to be okay. So let's get to it. With the first two, I did some yellow ochre in the sky with a mixture of ultramarine blue and some Mayan dark blue. Mixed that up. And I just want to add just a couple of droplets of water into those colors in case I need to mix more. Humidity plays a big role in our paints, and some people have asked, about whether it's a good idea to keep your paints as wet as I do. I've never had an issue. So I'm glad that I've found a way that I can keep doing that. I'm gonna have to move that because I'm splashing on it. Deb from New Mexico has mentioned to me several times that her humidity is not working for her so much when it comes to watercolor. So that's it becomes a challenge. And oh, there's my little brush. We have to do what we can do to keep ourselves painting, working on these watercolors, and there are products out there. Some people put gum arabic into their water to help keep the moisture. Some even here where we have higher humidity, wet the back of their paper several times, and then wet the surface if it's a nice smooth plexiglass or coroplast or something. And the suction helps to keep the paper down and the moisture through the back. If you've wetted it, let it sit, wetted it again, and then put water on the surface once you've flipped it over and attached it to your board. That keeps your paper moist and workable for a longer time if you're painting wet on wet or wet into moist. All right, so I'm going to go into I'll keep my smaller brush, that's fine. I've got the page nicely wetted. I'm just going to wiggle in some yellow ochre. I move this because my arm is sticking to it. And then this lovely mixture of ultramarine blue and Mayan blue. The Mayan is a nice, rich, dark, moody color. The ultramarine is quite a bit brighter. And just add a bit more bright to that one side, perhaps. And when they mix together, they give you that sort of nondescript kind of grayish tone. I'm excited to be doing a show in April. It's going to be a mixture of art and I think some craft and I've got friends who do beautiful beadwork and photography and there's just so many creatives that I know and aside from visual artists, musicians as well. I count myself, to be one of the very fortunate ones who gets to experience so much beauty and so many forms from the people that are around me. Just thought I wanted to add a bit more brightness to this sky, and it is going to dull down once it dries, of course. So I'm gonna leave that. I kind of like that amount of color, and then again with my not wet, it's damp paper towel. And I'm going to turn it because I don't really want to maybe add more of the yellow ochre. But and then just a few taps out to give those clouds and that sky a little bit of interest. Now if I'm going to have, this tree is going to have some kind of an embankment. So let's get our Mayan dark blue in here and see if we can't create a place for these trees to sit. I'm going to bring that all the way across because in these other two, I really loved how the Mayan blue kind of just found its way through that dampness on the page and became just such a beautiful, subtle effect. It just became its own entity. And then I'm gonna wet this bottom part just a little bit more and encourage that to run slightly. This side of this page is a little irregular, but that's going to all sit behind the matting once we get that there. And while that's moving down the page, think I'm just going to go in with a little bit of the undersea green, bring a little bit of lightness to the foreground. I don't want these trees in the background to be overpowering and take front and center, so I'm just going to give them just a little bit of attention, not a whole lot. I try to make them a little bit irregular, make some higher, taller, some less, some fatter. And if I bring that undersea green down to where I think it's going to maybe, in effect, be a shoreline. For this part, there'll be some rocks there, and this is going to have a basis of some sort, this little clump of trees here. So let's just give that a little embankment, and that is really wet. Really wet. Take some of that out, and I'm just going to go back in with thicker pigment but less water. How's that? And the same here for this little embankment here. Again, thick pigment. There's already enough water on the page. I added that extra water so that Mayan blue would run down. And I'm going to tip it up. Just turn it this way so you can see it. And just let that run down the page. I'm going to put in a little bit of that thick pigment around the base of where these trees are as well. And I think that's run down there quite beautifully. So just to keep things consistent, I'm going to bring a little more of the undersea green into the blue at the base of this tree, and a tiny bit here. And then our quinacridone gold. What would we do without our quinacridone gold? Oh my gosh. It is so beautiful. I'm using this to define a bit of a shoreline in the back here. And we'll put a tiny bit just underneath this tree in this rocky area where I've put the Mayan dark blue on this bit of land, this bump of land underneath these trees. It's the Mayan blue and the undersea green and the quinacridone gold are finding their way up into that moisture on the page. So you're almost getting a natural display of maybe some grasses and some softer things working out over top of that water's edge. Okay. Now, it is all very thick pigment, very dark. I'm going to take my paper towel and set it on as I normally do, just to pick up whatever is big and heavy on the surface. And then if I go in and just lightly dab in a few places. If you dab too much, just go back in, and it's almost like negative painting, right? You're just going to drop in a couple of dark shapes, and they'll become shadows. I kind of want this area here to be more of the lake or the water or the, I don't know, snowy meadow, whatever that light part is. So I'm just wetting my brush and going back in, and I'm going to just pull a tiny bit of that away with a damp brush. It's not a thirsty brush. So you clean it, you dry it with the towel. Nothing, I mean, you don't want to make sure that it's bone dry. You want it damp enough that it's going to be able to work across your page. And I just want to clean out a little bit of the blue without damaging this edge where it's coming down softly into the whiter part. And I can bring a little bit of that color down further as well. There. Use this paper towel as a... There. That's what I want. And then with a tiny bit of green, I think just to... My brush is now all scuffled. There we go. Just a tiny bit of the green. For our shoreline, and I'm going to push that up into the forested area in the back. The darker colors indicate that those pieces of shrubbery and greenery are closer to the front. And then just go back in again along the front edge of that with a tiny bit of the quinacridone gold so that it pushes away some of that. A little more gold on this side, I think. Now, in the other ones, we did use a plastic tab in just one of them. So I could... Some of this will be, of course, covered by the matting. But when you do this and you've let your paint and your pigment sit and just rest for a little bit, but it's still thick and it's still moist, when you push it around, you're clearing off some of the pigment, but you're also, where you stop, leaving little lines of where the moisture in the wet pigment just sort of sits. And if we do that over here, we can just sort of carve so it looks like a little bit of a shore. Okay. This is quite beautiful how this has come down into the water part, and barely touching. I'm just barely touching that. That will become, once I put a line in there, that will become the reflection into the water or onto the snow, whatever this is, whatever you want it to be. All right, get rid of some of that gold paint there. Lighten it up a tiny bit. I think that paper towel is done. Let's work at getting this masking tape off. Oops. Just going to get my there it is. You just want to be very careful. You can see where the paint has sort of worked its way through under the tape, and that's just fine. That will become an interesting part of that tree. Be very careful using a knife like this because you don't want to scratch your paper. As I've said before, it's pretty tough paper for your pigments and your water, but it's not going to hold up to a lot of abuse. And you want to be as gentle as you can with your paper, with your pigments, with everything. It's to me, watercolor is, I mean, it can be bold and beautiful, but at the same time, it's gentle, it's delicate. And I like to approach most of my paintings where I'm just introducing the color, you know, the pigment to the water, to the page. And inviting them, those elements, to partake in the process. And you know, it never fails to surprise me. I think that little piece is flipped over the back. There we go. Now, normally, as I say, I would leave this until, this is dangerous, pulling it into the open painting area. So we don't want to do that, just in case for some reason it wants to catch and lift your paper. So we're just going to pull it back rather than rip it out and pull off that beautiful sky. I love how the yellow ochre and the quinacridone, or not the quinacridone, ultramarine blue and the Mayan dark blue have sort of played together and given us some pretty different skies. This one looks like it could be a little on the stormy side, which is always fun. All right. So a real quick job at these trees. Dipping in just the tip of my brush into that wet mixture of the ultramarine blue and the Mayan dark blue. And just, I'm going to have to clean that off. So just a nice slight indication. This one's going to be, the edge of this is going to be hidden behind the edge of the mat that's on there. Whoops, tap that into my neutral tint. That's something we'll look at in another video, as well as using neutral tint to mix some of our colors. You know, I often just mix on the page. Just with these Daniel Smith colors, especially, they're so gorgeous, and they're already multi-pigmented, many of them, and the granulation that creates. The formulas they use are absolutely perfect for the way I paint. And whatever you're using, you know, it's something that I would encourage you to explore. Build that relationship. Whatever paints you decide that you are going to be using for whatever reason, learn what they can do for you. See how they play with the water. See what they do together, and use different techniques. Some people use salt. I'm just not a fan of the salt. I prefer other ways of getting the looks that I want, and I think maybe the style that I paint doesn't lend itself so much to the salt technique, but it's gorgeous, and it can be used in you know, in so many creative ways. Plastic wrap, granulating fluid, masking tape. I often will go to the local dollar store with the grandsons, and they'll be looking at toys, and I'll be looking at, I wonder how I could use that in my studio. What kind of a mark would that make? What would that bring, you know, to the picture, to the painting? Now I put some yellow ochre in the lid here of my little palette, and now I've got too much on my brush. I just want to get the tip of my brush into this little bit of color. There we go. I'm working on figuring out how to be able to ship my palettes to places other than Canada. It's such a challenge. And it's just me. I'm a one-woman operation, so sometimes these things take a bit of time. I'm in the process right now of trying to figure that out. I'm also in the process of setting up Zoom classes, so if you keep an eye on my website, you'll be able to see when those come about. I'm going to keep the classes small. That way we can interact, I think, a little more easily. I'm doing in-person 2-day workshops. One's happening in March here in the Okanagan. And I do have a couple spots left for that one, March 7th and 8th, and then I'm going to be doing another one. I'm just waiting on confirmation of availability of the location, but that will be near the end of April sometime, beginning of May. So lots going on. And any time I get a chance to share my love for this this medium is just something I want to take advantage of. I want to be able to hopefully inspire anyone who has even the slightest interest in checking out watercolor to really give it a go. Try it out. See what can happen. Test out your brush skills. And okay, so I did those trees pretty quickly, but I just wanted to get them in there because I want to deal with these trees that are sort of, you know, they're just coming into some dark color there. So, and the way I do this is, because it's dry there now, I'm going to go in, and I think I'm going to mix a little bit of my undersea green in with this liquidy ultramarine blue and Mayan dark blue, just to get some interest happening. Just on the tip of my lemons and goat hair 1.5 inch goat synthetic blend brush. If you've got a rigger, anything with a fine point, you know, just get in there and just sort of create some interest around the bottoms of these trees. Doesn't have to be too elaborate. Oops. You could let's just get some more green in there. It's a bit thick. If you were to just add some pigment around the bottom of there, and take the corner of your plastic tab, you could take the tip of a smaller brush at the end of it, and just flick through it. You're going to get some interest happening. You're going to get some things that look a little bit like twigs and sticks, and then make the odd one perhaps. Oops, that's a little bit dry. And this is something you'll learn the more you practice. The more brush time you get in, you will learn even what the amount of pigment and water feels like on the tip of your brush when you're ready to you know, make some fine lines or do something different, right? But it is practice. It's just taking it one step at a time, getting yourself used to what this feels like in your hand. We will make these a little bit irregular. And go for balance. Try to keep composition in mind to an extent. I mean, good grief. There's often, you know, if you look at things in nature, and I'm sure there's many times you've thought, if I painted that, no one would believe me. It's just amazing how things appear. And, I mean, we all see things differently. We all hear things differently because of who we are and how we process things. But I think that's enough of those little guys. I might even just blot out a tiny bit so that they don't look too harsh. And blotting is important because if you blot lightly and randomly, you do get another element of shading and levels of pigmentation and color. So the last thing I'm going to do with this one is just like we did on the first two, is I'm just going to go in and damp brush and just pull out a tiny bit to indicate a shoreline perhaps. You don't really want a harsh, heavy white line, but you do want it a little bit lighter, perhaps. Just to indicate some different levels of shading and depth. And this, I think this is more like shadow. I'll leave that there like that. All right, so there's number 1, there's number 2. I'll put my finger in the wet paint. And there's number 3. So let's set that aside. Don't know if the camera can catch all 3 of these. But those will be what goes into that little frame. I'd like to thank the Process Art Discovery audience for joining me today. We finished up a series of 3 little birches that will be popped into a frame ready to go to a show that's coming up. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to the channel or head on over to the members area.